I'm ready for this, I think. Illustrations by Meeden. So Meeden got in touch with me and they wanted to say, hey, you want to do a video with some watercolor? And I said, of course, that's what I like to do. So yes, bring it on. So they sent me 3 separate sets of these watercolor palettes here. There's 3 sets, A, B, and C. You'll see when I swatch them out. We're gonna have a little bit more fun with this. These are not meant to be like the ultra, these are not gonna replace your Daniel Smith and that kind of stuff. What these are for you to have fun and create art in a sketchbook, on paper, whatever you wanna do, on a watercolor canvas and a clay board and whatever you want, just for you. You wanna create something, you pick one of these up. Now I'm a little bit excited and I'm scared that I'm a little excited because I'm looking at this 12 color, well, let me show you what they look like. So they're color coded. And the first, okay, so the 12 basic set is pink. It's in a pink little case here, and it has the same thing. It comes with a little water brush in here. That's right, to all my fans out there, I said water brush. So, it's one of these little ones. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the little ones, but if you need something to use and you're gonna just throw it in here, it fits, so you don't have to take it apart. Some of them, when they fit inside the pans, they make you take them apart. You gotta take it apart and then put a stopper in the end, and then you can put it in your pan. Not this one. You fill it up just that much. That's why it's small. You fill it up and you stick it in there. So that's interesting. I've never used one of their water brushes. I've never done that, but I can give it a try. Comes to a sharp point. Can you see that? Yeah, it's a pretty sharp point there. So maybe like a medium. Yeah, it's probably. Okay, so I will go ahead and try and use that as well in the drawing part though. I'm not gonna do it on the swatch because I wanna make sure I have very good water control on the swatch. Everybody yells at me for that kind of stuff. But anyway, and they have the same, you know, they have this lift out section here. So you lift that out, you could lift it out, and then you have the pan. And what I usually do is I usually take the pans and I put the magnets on the bottom and then I stick them in here because I can get more in here. So if out of the 3 sets you wanted to put together a single set with a few extra pans, more than 12, you could do that with these, no problem. Or you can leave them in the holder just like that and use it like that. It's still not a big deal. I do like I like the tins because I like the little thumb holder on there because I usually carry it. Sometimes I'll put my finger this way through it and I'll just hold it like this while I'm painting on with it. And it's because then I have a free hand. So if I have to hold something like to hold the book, I can hold something and still paint with it. So that's why I like to do that. So I do like these little pans. I always have. I have a couple more that are from Meeden though. All the ones that I have, I believe, are from Meeden, except for one that was from an old Lucas set. But they're great pans. They work very well. Every once in a while you'll get a pan, and this one works fine. So every once in a while you get a pan that it sticks up here, like it doesn't bend all the way, and you just bend it down a little bit and that's fine. Some people like to pop that pin out and pull this piece right off because they don't use it at all. You can do that too. You do whatever you want, it's your pan. So anyway, here's the good news. We're doing a giveaway. So I'm gonna swatch out the 3 of these. It's gonna be a little different. You see us here in a second. But I'm gonna swatch out all 3 sets here in a second, and I'm gonna create a painting, all 3 sets on one painting. I'm just gonna go back and forth between all the different sets, stick them on all on one painting, because they're all a little different. You'll see. They said, listen, here's what you do. You pick your winner, and then they can pick any one of the 3 sets to get for free. So that's what we're gonna do in the US. This is a US only giveaway here because it's the Meeden US brand. It's the US division of Meeden. So here's what we're gonna do though. Instead of doing this on a Friday video or recording it Friday and then doing a Saturday video, it's just a little bit too much for me to put it all together all at once, all at the same time. So instead what I'm going to do is put it together on the next Monday video. So I will pick the winner on Sunday. No, I will still pick the winner on Friday. You still have until Friday, but you won't see the winner until the Monday video. I'm not going to do a separate Saturday video. And that is because it's a little bit time consuming. It's very hard to get home from a full day of work, then record a full video, edit the full video, do the whole thing, and get it up and posted before midnight for the next day. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more time. Also, I'm doing some other things that require my attention that will be for your benefit, at least I hope so. But we'll see. We're working on that. But it doesn't matter. The point is, we're going to do the giveaway. I'll swatch out all 3 sets. I will be doing a painting with all 3 sets. And you see which ones you think you like the best. You say, hey, so now you have to go down into the comments and you need to say, hey, I would like to win that set, but you have to tell me which set you want. So it's A, B, or C, okay? There's 3 different sets and they're A, B, and C, and they're listed. Oh, I didn't list it on, yes, I did. I didn't list it on the thing. I'll put it on the sheet so you see it on the sheet. Top one is A, next one is B, next one is C. It's very simple. A, B, C. We learned that from a very young age here in the US. I don't know where everybody else learns it, but about the time we're 14 years old, we know them pretty good. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started on the swatching, and I will bring you right into it and go through it. There's no pigment information with these. Like I said, these, you're not looking for, are these light fast? That's not what you're looking for with these. You're looking for, are they likable for me? Can I use them? Can I put them in my sketchbook? Can I paint with them? Do they react normally? That's what we're going to look at today. Okay, so we're going to start today. These are the 12 basic colors. This is the A set, and that's where we're going to start today. That's this set here. That's the pink and, yeah, it's pink and more pink. That's this set here. And like I said, it has the little pants here. There's a reason that I'm a little bit excited for these, but I might be disappointed a little bit. And that is only because I am not big into the split primaries. I don't like that very much. However, there's a little bit of white on that. Anyway, but what I'm gonna say is, however, there's a mix up here, because the one thing that I really don't like in the split primaries, well, there's one of them. But that's okay. I understand a lot of people use the ultramarine for mixing. They're giving you a regular orange instead of a warm orange. I mean a warm red. I like that because I love oranges, but I do not like warm reds. I do like cool reds, and I'm hoping that that's a cool red. We'll see how this goes. Okay, now usually I do over here, you know, make the lines to all these individual boxes. I'm not doing that this time. We're just going to wing it as we go forward, and you'll just be able to see how that's going. So here's a permanent yellow, and this is what I was wondering about. And it's a cool yellow. Okay, so it's cooler than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit more warm, and that's because, you know, you look at the propaganda sheets and it looks like a warmer yellow, looks like a middle yellow or something like that. That's obviously very bright. It's a cool yellow, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. On the back of everything, it does show the whole set on the back, but it's not going to be accurate. It's just a representation of what they are trying to show you. But really, you got to swatch these out to figure it out. You have to really look at them in person to really figure it out. Okay, yellow ochre, one of my favorite colors. This is a little bit more yellow, so this has a lot more yellow in it. It's a little bit more of like a golden yellow. You see how when you water this out at the bottom here, it gets very light. So it's much up here, I can see it. This reminds me of one of the core paints. We're gonna go back through that, but it reminds me of one of the core paints, the Naples yellow, kind of golden color that gets really light yellow and not necessarily a golden or yellow ochre, but it's a nice color. I'd use it. It's just not my favorite. Here's orange. Now this is gonna be, yes, this is like a pumpkin orange, very nicely done. These are very vibrant. So the paints themselves are extremely vibrant. They're gonna stay just fine when you're painting with them in your sketchbook, the whole thing. Everything will be wonderful. Okay, here's the scarlet. Let's see what this is. And that's a true red. So it's not a warm red. It's not really it's not a cool red, definitely not a cool red. Maybe it's a little bit warmer, but it's more of a true red. Let's see how it dries. They always shift when they dry, so let's see how that goes when it dries. And now we will go to my least favorite blue of any blue that I've ever seen in my life, the ultramarine. A lot of people love it, I know. Oh, that's a different kind of, well, for some reason, every ultramarine I've ever seen, the pigment itself is a cheap pigment. So you know, no matter what, you're usually getting the true ultramarine in there. And you can see a little bit of granulation in there, which is what ultramarine does. It granulates, that's what it does. So that's a wonderful thing. And every brand, it just looks a little bit light, like it looks a little bit less pigmented than all the other colors. But that's not just for this set, that's for every set I've ever seen. That goes through Daniel Smith and everyone else. It's just a little bit lighter than some of the other pigments as far as its intensity. But that's just maybe a characteristic of the actual pigment. Now we have a white, so let's see, I probably did not let this dry long enough. If it moves some of the ink around, that's not the paint's fault, that's my fault. But we'll see here, so. And it's opaque. It's gonna dry very not opaque. I might do a second, let me do a second swipe on there. White's a little bit harder to re-wet sometimes in certain brands, so I'll put a little bit more on there just to give it a fair shot and see. And that's pretty opaque for white when you do it, but let's see when it dries. Sometimes it dries and that comes right back through all the way, so that's not what we want. But white is good. I know a lot of people hate white. No, I don't like white. White's good for making any of these colors gouache-like and making them a little bit more opaque so that you can paint a little bit more like gouache, like you would with gouache. And you can use every color in the whole set. That's the good thing about having a white on your palette. You can use every color in the whole set and just turn it into a gouache. So if you really like those colors, now you have those colors in gouache. It's nice. Okay, grass green. I'm usually not a fan of the grass greens and all that, but let's see, because what some people call grass green is not what other companies call grass green. So let's see how this goes. Give it a little bit more water there. Okay. Yeah, that's like that spring green or whatever. It's not my favorite color. I don't like those greens typically. They are a little bit more opaque kind of greens, and they're just not usually my thing because they're just too bright. And I like the muted palettes, so it's different for me. But it's still, if you like greens, you can use that. There's nothing wrong with it. It reminds me exactly of what I would say a spring green would look like. Okay, this is a cerulean blue. I will assume, I don't know, because there's no pigment information. I'm going to assume this is like a cerulean blue shade. I don't think it's actually going to be real cerulean blue. Now it definitely has a white in it. There's definitely some white in there to make it a little bit more opaque. I want to just, let me see if I just clean this up a little bit on the side here. Just a little bit here. It's very opaque, I believe. So if you like that, that's fine. And I'm going to add a little bit of water in here. I just want to see if it granulates a little bit. Typically, cerulean blue is a granulating blue. So if that little bit of that little spot there should granulate a little bit, and that's fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I do believe it's a cerulean blue, like a tint, like a shade of cerulean blue. It's not really. It's probably like a phthalo blue with white. That's typically what people do. People, I meant companies, not people. It's not. I mean, they are people. The companies employ people, so the people that formulate this are people. But you know what I meant, companies. That's what companies do. Okay, so then we have this burnt umber here, and burnt umber is a very wonderful color. It's one of my favorite colors. So, and that's a dark burnt umber, my goodness. But yes, very nice color. I like that color. It's a good color. Again, I think this is very opaque, but it's okay. It's well, down here is not, but up in that mass tone gets a little opaque. That's okay. So what you usually do is you have to make sure that you take the product and use it the way it's intended to be used. So if you just say, hey, I'm only going to use products that work the way that I work, you're going to have very limited things because you learned on a product. So unless something else has the exact same properties of that product, you're going to learn differently You're gonna use everything else differently than you use that, and it's not gonna be good for you. You have to understand, sometimes you have to use a product just as long as you enjoy the creative process. All the paints that I have to use them all differently, and I love them all for what they are, for what they do. That's what it is. You have to make sure that you do that. If you just, oh, well, I only like things that are just like this, just like based on the one that I learned on, then the one you learned on is the only one you're going to actually like, because no two things have ever been the same in my experience. Even professional brands, you use something like the way that I use Daniel Smith is not the way that I use Core. They're both professional brands, but I can't use them the same way. I have to use them the way that they work, not the way that I work. And then I just have fun using them the way that they work. That's the way things go. Okay, Jade Green. Oh, guess what color that is? Oh, they did it. They just stained my water brush. It's not bad. It didn't stain too bad. That is a phthalo green. I don't care what anybody says. Phthalo green is my nemesis. You know that. It's not good. But it's a lot of people love that color, and it's a good mixing color from what I've heard. I don't know, I don't mix with it. But yeah, it's supposed to be a good mixing color. A deep magenta. Let's see what a deep magenta looks like. That's an interesting phrase, deep magenta. Okay, so let me see. So that's, okay, it's a little bit less red than a regular magenta, maybe. Close. It's not, yeah, just, I would expect it to be a little bit more purpley for the magenta to come through, but this is a great color. It's almost like, you'd call it a magenta. It's just a deep magenta. They got the name right. I didn't. Okay, now we have a black, and I'm not sure what kind of black this is, but we're going to try and find out. So it's a very, okay, it's a deep black. I want to water that out a little bit and see what the undertone is. I think it's a little bit warmer. Yeah, so it's a little bit warmer of a black. There's a little bit of brown in that. Yeah, so that's a typical black that a lot of companies use. It's not like the Mars black, which is my favorite black, but it's okay. And that is going to be very opaque. You can see it immediately. But this here is like a lighter brownish color. That's okay. It's good. I can't get the whole set on this screen yet, but we're going to talk about the details later. Let's move on to the metallic set. Okay, we're going to move on to the metallic set here. It is yellow, just in case you're, and that's a nice color. That yellow ochre needs to be this color right here, and it would be perfect. That's a beautiful yellow ochre color. Now, on the metallic colors, I'm also going to put them onto this black paper a little bit so that you can see what it looks like on the black paper. I think that's fair. I did screw something up, I think. Hold on here. Down here, okay, down on the next section, I screwed something up. So let's look at this here. We have this pale yellow. Let's see what a pale yellow looks like for a metallic color. So this pale yellow is metallic. I don't really see the metallic on this paper, but so and by the way, I am using good paper. I'm using Arch's rough press paper because I wanted to use some good paper and show it to you. And there you go. It shows up on the black paper. And that's what you want in a good metallic paint. You want it to show up on black paper. Okay, next we're going to go to a light yellow. So there's a pale yellow, and then there's a light yellow. And by the way, these names are all metallic. They start with metallic pale yellow, metallic light yellow. I just didn't want to write metallic constantly. So they all start with that, just so you know. And there you go. And they're similar. You can actually, now that it's drying, you can see the glisten on it. So that's good. That's what you want with these metallic colors. You want that little bit of glistening to happen on the paper. I usually use them for accent colors. I usually don't do a whole painting of all metallics, but I have grown to like metallic colors. I never thought I would, but I do. Okay, let's see here. We got the white, a metallic white. What is that going to look like? Well, it didn't really go on that. Maybe, hold on. Let me wet it really good. Like I said, white pigments sometimes do take a second to re-wet, so let's see here. It's not very opaque. Maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe it's just for using on black paper. Let's find out. Yeah, so that's much more prevalent on the black paper than it was on the black ink line. And you can see it. Now, let me say something else. Some of you have recommended some things on how to make these colors less reflective, because in the screen they do look reflective. However, usually these types of paints look less reflective than those silver paints did. And speaking of, we're moving on to a silver gray paint. So let's see how this one does. Now, you can see that. That's what a silver gray paint's supposed to look like. You can see that very well. And what about on the black paper? And there you go. It's very sparkly. And they look very similar because they're glistening paints. They're metallic paints. So you don't really have a lot of difference here between them. You can see the difference between the colors, but there's not a lot of difference. Like, you can see that this is a lot brighter. So that white, as it's drying, it's getting brighter and brighter on this paper, which is good. That's a good thing. Okay, let's move over to the turquoise now. Turquoise is always a strange color for me because I get the turquoise and teal are very strange for me because I always look at this color here as a teal color, but some companies say places. Here I go again with places and people. Anyway, some companies call this color teal, and some people call this turquoise. And if I look at the phthalo turquoise from like a Daniel Smith, we get a very blue color, whereas the teal is more green. But if you look in other companies, you get a very green color for turquoise, and sometimes their teal is more blue. So I'm very confused about this. Why don't you tell me? Let me know. What's your opinion? I think I've asked you this before, but tell me, turquoise and teal, which one's more blue, which one's more green, in your opinion? Not what your paint says, because every brand will do something different, like I said. But what do you think is the actual description of what that is? I tend to say turquoise because I use Daniel Smith so much. I tend to say turquoise is the more blue one and teal is the more green one, but I could be entirely wrong. I usually am. That's my trademark, is that I'm usually wrong. Okay, now we're talking about an ocean here. Let's see what the ocean blue looks like, and I think this looks like a color that I would absolutely love, this color. And I'm gonna have to walk something back here because I just went on about Daniel Smith saying a phthalo turquoise is more blue, which it is, but the turquoise genuine actually looks more like that color. So I'm 100% wrong every time. I told you, that's just how that is. I still want to hear your opinion though, but I'm usually wrong. That's a very pretty color. Very nice color there, that ocean color. I want to see how they glisten here when they're all dried, and we'll do that. I'll tip them up on the edge, so the edge of the paper there, so you can see them glisten. They glisten a little bit there, but they also go out of focus, so that's not fun. Okay, Viva Magenta. Let's see if it matches. Here's a magenta. That's a deep magenta. Let's see if this color matches that, kind of. Let's see. Viva Magenta. Not even a little bit. Not even a iota at all. Oh boy, look at that. But that's okay. It's still a pretty color. It's a very pretty color, as a matter of fact. And I would use that. That's something I could use. Absolutely. And I'll probably... You can see now that these are dry, big difference between it. Well, maybe not on the camera. There is a big difference though. You can see a big difference here. Not so much down here. These have kind of blended together here. This one's a little bit more yellow than this one. But then, and this one is white. You see that white, and you see the gray. So, so far everything's moving along wonderfully, and they're getting brighter as they dry. You want them to show up on that black paper, and these are, and they're showing up with a lot of texture in them, which is wonderful. All right, Mrs. Rosy Pink, let's see what you can do. And there you go. Wonderful. It's a rosy pink. It sure is. And there you go. And we'll come back to them when they're dry to really look at them and see how they are. So don't worry about that. We're looking at the aqua blue now. That's going to be the next one. Aqua blue. Or as the French say, aqua bleu. That's a terrible French accent. I'm sorry. I apologize for subjecting you to that terrible thing that had just happened here. Okay, let's see how this works. Oh, that's a gorgeous color. That's gorgeous. That's beautiful. If you're French, in the comments below, you get one free shot. Go ahead, take it at me. That's all right. Don't worry about it. I don't get offended. All right. So again, beautiful color, and it's glistening well. I wish I get these next to each other. Don't worry. We're gonna do. I may have to do a separate video with on black paper with these because they're that nice. They're that pretty, and they're showing up very nicely on the paper. So I'm going to try and get that on the camera here. Just give me a minute. This lilac, oh, light purple, not lilac purple, light purple. That's my problem. But anyway, oh, I went over it the second one. And don't worry about that. This is the light purple, not lilac purple. Okay, we got some orange here. A metallic orange. That's not something I think I'm familiar with very often in sets. Is a lilac, here we go with the damn lilac, is the metallic orange. I have not seen that very often, but it's a very pretty color. And you can see that these two are related here. This just shinier a little bit, so it changes the color a little bit, but you see that they're related. And let's see if that gets darker. There's a little bit more red in that one, but that's okay. It's close. It's in the same family, you can tell. Seafoam green, let's do that one. That's the last of the metallic colors, or as I like to call them, the lilac colors. Apparently everything's a lilac now. So let's see, the seafoam green here, and it's very close to that turquoise, is it not? Maybe it's just because it's wet? Well, we're gonna see. I know I keep going over the same thing because I think I'm not wetting them enough, but I really am. They get darker as you go. Okay, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Are they the same color or not? Can you see? Yeah, you can see it on the screen. These are very close, but they don't look close on the black part of the paper. This looks like a blue-white almost, like a white with blue in it. This shows up green. So even though these colors are close on the black paper, they are not close. And that is something that I find interesting. That is also why no one wants to talk to me, because I do find that interesting. So let's look at, okay, but now we're moving, I'm not even gonna say the word. We're gonna take out this last set here. Oh, I took it out of the bag before, okay. And it's blue. It's a blue set, and this is the C. So this is pastel colors C set. So let's see here. And we'll pull this out. Oh, those are some funky Cole Medina colors. Okay, not saying a word. I'm not doing it, but this is that color that I said 100 times before. And let's see here. And it's a nice color. Look at that. Wonderful color right there. And it is that color. That's a good representation of that color. Absolutely wonderful. It's not too bright. It is pastel color, but it's not too bright. It's a nice color. Okay. Now this one, oh boy, here we go. It's either aubergine or aubergine. I don't know. I'm new to English. So I would say aubergine, but it might be aubergine. I have no idea. And that's another very pretty color. Very similar type family of color, but still very nice. Both of these are very opaque up here. So you can see that there is definitely a little bit of white in them to brighten them up and make them more pastel. That's what you do. If you mix the white into any of these colors, they would look more pastel. So that's what you do. You add a little bit of white into it. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, so these are the ones that I mixed up. So let me just do this first one. This is the fluorescent pink, and that's exactly what this is. I don't know how you paint with that. I don't know what you do with it, but I know that there's someone out there who would paint with that. They say This pink color, this bright fluorescent pink color is exactly what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it somewhere else. I could find it here. So if your name is picked, you get to say, hey, I want this set. Here's the fluorescent purple. Now I don't know, there's already 2 purples, but let's see what the fluorescent purple looks like. That's not bad. I don't think that's very fluorescent as far as being bright, but it is a definitely, these are what we would call Easter colors, right? The pastel colors, you see those colors all the time, painted on Easter eggs and things like that. It's the light colors. Light green is perfect timing. So the light green, and it's a light green. It's exactly what it is, a light green. These are not my favorite greens, and I'll tell you why. It's only because I am opposed to using, not opposed to, I don't care what you use, but I am opposed to using the yellow greens. I don't like the yellow greens very much. They're not for me. However, this is more fluorescent than any yellow green I've ever seen. And now we have an aqua. So let's see if the aqua here matches the other aqua in the other set. So let's bring your remembrances over here, that aqua right there. And there's an aqua somewhere else. Oh no, that's just ocean. Okay, so let's see what it does. So, oh, I'm not using enough water. There we go. Okay, so there's the aqua green there. That is a bright aqua green. Now that reminds me more of that turquoise. Do you see that color? This reminds me more of that. I'm just gonna, let me just do something. I don't know if these colors would show up on black paper. Let me see if this one would. Yeah, it sure does. So because the white is added to them, I'm assuming it's white. That's what the company didn't say that, but I'm saying it. It does show up on there. Will any of the other, how about that color that I will never say the name of ever again? Will that one? Yeah, it does show up. So you can use these on black paper along with the metallics, and they show up very well. They show up very nicely on there. Wonderfully. Some a little bit better, no, maybe not better than the metallics, but definitely as good as the metallics. So that's a good thing to know if you're going to pick this set. You can show these on black paper if you want to, and they'll show up for you. A fluorescent orange. Now this looks like a highlighter orange. That's exactly what it looks like to me. Yeah, just like that. So that's a highlighter orange there. I'm going to just darken the top here. And there you go. A highlighter orange or fluorescent orange. There's also a fluorescent yellow, which looks just like a highlighter. The thing about fluorescent colors, the fluorescent yellow in particular, it looks green to me. You see how it looks green on the tip there? It always looks green to me a little bit. So it's a greenish yellow, which is definitely not my favorite color. However, it looks exactly like a highlighter. That's exactly what that highlighter would do. Now there's a couple of colors in this set that I think I would actually use and really enjoy, and this is one of them as well. This is the pale blue. I think it looks very nice, and I want to compare that to the cerulean blue. I cannot get them on the page at this time, but I will later. So that cerulean blue is very dark up here compared to this one, which is very light. So it's not really cerulean. However, it is a pale, like I was going to call it a baby blue, but there's baby blue, and baby blue looks more powdery. It looks lighter than that pale blue. Also, a very nice color, very thick, so you can use these like a gouache. These are definitely like a gouache when you're looking at them. They come off very strong on the page. I'm going to do that here again. Let's see if I can do that. Do this here just to see. Yeah, look how bright that is. That's wonderful. So you can use these like a gouache. I will have a couple of small criticisms of this set when I'm done, but not much. Okay, now we have a fluorescent green. Let's get that rolling. Here's the fluorescent green, and yeah, just like a highlighter. Just like a highlighter is exactly what it looks like. Just like, yeah, just like a highlighter. That's what it does. And then we have the fluorescent blue. Now this one does not remind me of a highlighter yet. Now it looks very dark in the pan. You see the pan? And then as you add the water to it, it gets lighter. But it still does not look like a, I wouldn't say it looks like a highlighter. No, it's a little weak with the tinting strength, but it's going to get darker as it dries, so that's fine. And those blues look wonderful. I'm a fan of them. I think they're nice. So let me back up here, and then we're going to look at these from a distance, and then we'll go into the painting. Okay, let me run through the sets here, just so you know where I stand. So let's go through some of this on the sets, okay? So this actually darkened and got a little bit more of a warm yellow. I'm actually happy to see that because it's not a warm, completely warm yellow. It's more like a middle yellow, like a middle yellow. And it's nice to see that because that's a color that I would probably use, unlike a lemon yellow. I don't like lemon yellows, but this guy, it's a little bit warmer than that. I approve of that. This yellow ochre, let me show you something. I'm sorry, I said Naples yellow before, but I think it has a little bit of this nickel azo yellow. That's what I was talking about, from Daniel Smith, not from Core. I was in the wrong ballpark. But anyway, don't worry, I still saw the game and I loved it. This is a little bit more gold than this is, but you see how it gets very light and gets like to a paler yellow? That does that, and you could take, let me see if you could take the Naples yellow. So the Naples yellow is actually more brown, so I would say no to that. So I would say that's as close to that. This is a different color than any yellow ochre I've ever seen. This is my favorite yellow ochre color. It's a Mars yellow, and you see how brown that is compared to this. This is more of a yellowish gold color, but I'm not fond of that color. It looks dirty to me. That's just my opinion. It looks like a nickel azo yellow, which I don't use very often because it looks dirty to me. It's just the color itself looks dirty. However, it's not terrible. I just probably wouldn't use it. And that doesn't mean you wouldn't use it. You just use whatever colors you like. That's just my taste, and that's all that is. It says nothing about the actual paint. The paint covers well. It's bright, it's vibrant, it works well. So if you like that color, you have no problem using that. Orange is nice. The scarlet did come out like a true red. It's not warm at all, I don't think. It's more like a true red. It doesn't lean all the way warm. It doesn't lean all the way cool. It's just red, but it does look very opaque. It's a very strong red, very bright and bold. And a lot of people like that, like a fire engine red. Wonderful. This ultramarine, it appears to be the ultramarine that we're all familiar with. It granulated a little bit. It looks basically what an ultramarine looks like. It's just not my color. I don't like the red blues. So this set would probably be off of my list, but not because of that, but because of the other colors that are in here that I wouldn't get. However, the colors that I do like, I would use. That yellow is a nice color. I would use that. The orange, nice. The scarlet, nice. The white is actually not bad. It did come through a little bit, that's fine, but it's not bad, and I would use that to mix with the other colors to make a gouache. The greens are not my thing, so you know, the phthalo green is definitely my nemesis. I do not like it at all. It stains everything I have, and I don't like it. And then you have to sit there, and people are like, oh, you can clean it. Yeah, you can clean it. I don't want to clean it. It's watercolor. I want to put water on it and wipe it off. That's what I want. I don't want to sit there with toothpaste or any other thing to wipe it off. Or you have to get a special sponge and that. No, that's just paint should be paint. Anyway, burnt umber. Beautiful color. I love this color. It's darker than most burnt umbers I've ever seen. It dries more like a sepia kind of color than it does a regular burnt umber color. But beautiful. I love that color. Cerulean blue came out wonderful. It's very opaque, but it did come out very nicely when I thinned it out. You can use that in a sky. Absolutely, that would be a beautiful sky. The greens, like I said, not my thing. Go down to the deep magenta. That deep magenta, oh, you don't have to move it. It's not, okay. I don't need to move it like that. The deep magenta is not my kind of color, but it would be a great mixing color if you wanted to mix purples with that. Absolutely wonderful. And I mean mix purples out of this and a blue, not mix purples with this. It might be different. Anyway, black actually dried much more neutral than it looked when you put it down. So it's slightly to the warm side, but a lot less than when I first put it down. Let's go to the metallic set. By the way, this is the basic colors set A. If that's the colors you want, you tell me. It's like a split primary, kind of, but it's different. There's no real cool red. You have this color, but there's no real cool red. There's no real warm red. It's a true red and an orange. There's no cool yellow, so it's a permanent, and I like that better. So it just depends on what your taste is. That's everything in the sets, or what your taste is. Every one of these colors are beautiful colors. They're very strong and vibrant. You can use them. Now the Metallica, let's get to the metallic set. I think that's my favorite set in this whole thing. Out of the three, I think that's the set I would go for because the colors actually come out on the paper of the colors that they are. Okay, so there's now a CPL filter on the camera. Can you see? The CPL filter makes it so that the reflections aren't so bad. Usually use it for water. So if you were filming water, you'd put the CPL filter on there and you could see through the water because the sun reflection wouldn't show up on the camera where normally it would. So let's see, is that better? Okay, I mean, it makes it a little bit darker. Can you see all the difference in the colors now? Or see them better? You see that, and then you move it off, and it makes it darker, that's for sure. But I don't think it changes the reflectiveness on the paint. It was a very good suggestion. I think that was Becky that suggested that. Very good suggestion. These, luckily, are not very hard to tell them apart. You can see them pretty well. But that was something I wanted to try because I think that's a good suggestion. That's what you do with water, so why wouldn't it work with this? But I don't think it does necessarily because, well, all this is light going through the paint, hitting the white of the page and reflecting back. That's what all water-based paint is. And even oils do that. But really, the water-based paints do it so much more. It reflects down through, hits the white of the page and bounces back. And that's why they appear so bright and vibrant, because that's what they're doing. Even the opaque ones do it. So don't think that it's just acrylic does it as well. It's just anything like that, it does these. These are translucent, that's what they call them, because the light goes through and bounces back. So, but I think these are pretty clear. You can pretty well see the difference. Maybe these two are hard to tell, but they're hard to tell standing here too. It's not the camera doing that, it's hard to tell here. And then someone else said, if I put it on a 45 or something like that, can you get a better view of it? Right now, if I do that, it's gonna get blurry. But I don't think you really see a big difference when you tilt it with the color, because it's really not too bad. It's not too reflective. And if I turn off the light source completely, again, it's the same thing. You can still see the colors anyway. So I don't think it's necessary. I think that's fine. So that's the set I think I would pick, because I think I would have the most fun with it. It looks good on paper, and I would use them for accents probably on paintings normally. But then on black paper, they really show up. They get so bright. The more they dry, the brighter they get. And I'm very impressed by that. I think that's a wonderful thing. And then these pastel colors, let's move down to here. So I like these blues. Well, the orange is a little bright for me. I like the blues, but the other colors are a little bright for me. Maybe this purple here or this one here, whichever, it's not as bright, and these blues are not as bright, so they're good, but the other colors are way too bright for me. I like muted colors, so they're definitely too bright. And I know that sounds like a contradiction compared to what I just said about these sparkly paints, because they are not very muted either. But again, on the white paper, I just use them for an accent. And then on the black paper, I'd use them as a gouache, which I want all that texture and glistening. So that's why they're good. Now, using them on the black paper, they show up great. So you could use them as gouache on black paper. If that's what you want to use them for, that's great too. I would not use fluorescent colors normally, but these blues are pretty. And at least one of those purples I would use. So, and I don't use purples all the time because I don't do a lot of floral stuff, whatever, but purple still works for me. I still use some type of purple. Usually I use like a perylene purple, which is much darker, but that's okay. These would still work. All right, we went through that. Now let's get into some painting. Okay, so I want to start out by saying that inside these little brushes that they send, there is a stopper. Do you see that? That little stopper in there? So you pull the thing out, and that's what I did to use this. I did try and use it in the painting. I started another painting before this one and forgot to record the beginning part of it, so I stopped it right away. But anyway, it didn't matter. I tried to use that, and I'm sure if I gave it practice, like anything that you practice with, you will eventually learn how to use. But it was just, I'm not used to this particular water brush and how it works. And the water flow, you have to control it differently than I do with the other one. So, I popped the thing out and then I filled it with water and then it works just fine like this, absolutely fine. I guess it feels a little wet. It could be leaking. I might have to put that water thing back in, but you know what? I just opened it up though, so maybe that's why. Anyway, they're just all a little different. Any art supply that you use, you practice with, including these paints, including different types of paper, whether you're using pulp paper or cotton paper, or thick paper, or thin paper, anything you use, you can be successful with it. That's very important that you know that. I'm going to mention that a bunch more because I think more people need to hear that. You will be successful with it if you practice with that thing. As long as you use it the way it needs to be used, and don't say something weird like, well, it doesn't do this, so I can't do, and I've already talked about that, but that's what I'm just saying, that it's important that you learn to use something the way it needs to be used. You can't use, let me tell you a quick story. When I was younger, I tried to learn painting from Bob Ross. My mother and I used to watch Bob Ross on the weekends. I was young. I couldn't wait. I would go out early in the morning, go play with my friends. I'd be back at the house real quick because Bob Ross was coming on. As soon as Bob Ross got, that's where I'd be. Me and my mother used to watch Bob Ross painting. It used to be like an hour or so. I don't remember how long the show was, but it was like public access TV. It used to be on for like an hour or whatever. I loved it. So I got some acrylic paint. Guess what? Bob Ross doesn't use acrylic paint. So I got the paint and I'm sitting there with the canvas trying to do what he's doing. I'm like, this isn't blending the way that he did it. That's because it's acrylic paint. It works differently than oil paint. Now, what I thought at the time when I was a little kid, this paint sucks. This is terrible. I hate this paint. It wasn't the paint's fault. I was using it wrong. But I said, oh, that's not how I work. That's the equivalent to what people do today. That's ridiculous. I mean, if you don't want to, then that's fine. But you don't say, oh, I don't want to work like that. So I just don't work like that. So this product sucks. No, you can say, I don't like to work like that, so I don't use this product. That's perfectly fine. That's you saying, hey, I'm not comfortable. I'm not enjoying the process of creating with this product. That's fine. But to say the product doesn't work because you're not using it the way that it needs to be used, that's ridiculous. So just keep that in mind when you have something like a paper. I'll share with you another quick story. So I started painting and I was using the Legion watercolor paper, and then I had the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Now I like the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, I always have. And I like the Legion paper. The Legion paper, it blends very well on the page. So when you start putting down some paint, you can move it. You can go back in with water and move it. And I was painting birch trees. I think I showed this a while back in a sketchbook. Painting birch trees, I always do that when I get like something new to try it out, some paper. I paint a little birch tree on it to see what properties it has, because some paper sucks it right into itself, so you can't move that paint. The Fluid 100 did that. So I went to put something down and it became a hard edge. It sucked it right in. I couldn't move it. I couldn't go back over and lift it. And people say, oh, I hate that paper. It doesn't work right. That's not what watercolor paper is supposed to do. Yes, it is. It is, because that's how it's designed to be used. Liz Steele, an amazing botanical artist. I absolutely love watching Liz Steele work. And when she works, she does these botanicals. And what she likes to do, she uses the Fluid 100. She used to use, I think, Fabriano Artistico, which used to do the same thing. It used to suck the water down into the paint, right into it, and not move. But then they changed the formula, and it didn't work like that anymore. It worked more like an Arches or a Legion, where you can go over the top of it and lift very easily, and you can move the paint around after it's already dried. You can do that. But she likes to glaze. If you like to glaze, she likes to go around the botanical and puts the outline in, like a hard outline, and then glaze the actual color of the whole leaf over the top of that outline. If you use like an Arches, or you use a Legion or something like that, and now if you use the Fabriano Artistico, and you go over the top, it lifts the underneath because it's easy to lift. So that's what that paper does. But she likes to put the line work in first with the darker paint, and then wash over the top of it with the lighter paint, and she doesn't want that paint to move on the bottom part. So guess what? That's the paper she uses, because that works the way that she works. She's using it the way it's supposed to be used. That doesn't mean that the other watercolor papers are bad, because the other watercolor papers are how some other watercolors like to use, where it's easy to lift and easy to move the color. It just depends on what you're doing. But if you like to lift, don't get the Fluid 100. It's not going to work for you. So you would then get the Arches or get whatever. But if you want it to stay put, you get the Fluid. Don't use the Arches or whatever. It's not that one's better than the other. It's that they have to be used differently. That's what I think about all of these things. So let's apply that to these three sets. The paints are a little bit more opaque. Now the basic set, the 12 basic set, those could probably be used. You thin them out a little bit, and they're transparent. You use them just like regular watercolor. Everything's fine. However, once you get to the metallic, once you get to the, and you saw, I don't know if you saw, but when that white was kind of, the white metallic, when it got a little bit drier, it became more opaque. The other white paint from the basic set became less opaque the drier it got. And so it was like a reverse, but that's because that characteristic of the mica or whatever they have in the metallic paints, that really comes through once it's dry. That's wonderful. And I didn't get all over my hands. So that's wonderful also. I touched it and it wasn't everywhere. Like those other ones were, those other silver paints that I had, you'd touch them, they'd be everywhere. I threw them away. You remember that. But these, they didn't seem to be. I didn't seem to have a problem with them. I didn't notice anything getting on my hands or getting on my desk after I used it or anything like that. So that's fine. Now, I'm not saying it's a guarantee. If you sit there scrubbing at it, you rub your hand on it like crazy, you might get something off of it. I don't know. But I didn't when I did it. So then you go to the fluorescents. The fluorescents need to be, they're very opaque because they're mixed with white. They make the pastels. They're not fluorescent. They're pastels, even though some of the color names are fluorescent. And they look like a highlighter. But that's okay. What we're talking about is if it's a little bit different, so you can use them as a gouache, and you can probably lighten them up a little bit to use like a watercolor, but it's going to be an opaque watercolor. It's gouache, like gouache. That's what I would assume it's going to be. Except for there's like one or two colors that were a little bit thinner. But even those were a little bit opaque. So you have to decide which ones you actually want to use, how do you want to work, and then you pick the paint depending on how you want to work. Now, I already mentioned the metallic set was my favorite, and I think I'm going to use it on maybe some black paper and do a separate drawing with it. Or when I do those, where in the background I do the wash and then I do like the little black areas and then I go over the top with usually white. But sometimes I've done metallic before. I've done the metallic Posca paint pens or whatever over the top. But I can use some of this watercolor right over the top of that and make some designs, and it'll work just fine. And this is, depending on when you watch this, if you're watching it when it comes out, it's right before Mama's Day. So, for all you mothers in the audience, Happy Mother's Day. And if you're getting ready to maybe buy something for a mother who is an artist, these may be interesting. They're very inexpensive. They're a great value. Being inexpensive and being able to use them, it's a good value. So if you want to say, hey, look, I know that my mother likes to paint in a sketchbook or maybe in a coloring book or something, these are decent. They really are. I would definitely use them for that. I'd use the metallic ones anyway because I just like them. I don't know. They just struck me to be the thing that I would pick if it was me. But if you are a mother, then maybe tell other people when they say, hey, what do you want? These are very affordable. It's an affordable gift. So if you like them and you don't want people to spend too much money or something like, yeah, hey, check these out. Here's the link for these. You can look at them and that's what I would like or whatever. I'm just saying it's a possibility. You could do it. Now, it'd still make a little swatch card to go inside those little pans and do them however you want. If you did get these, oh, I like that one and you got two of them, like I said, you can pop out those individual pans, put magnets on them and stick them back in the actual travel pan part, but take it off the actual little tray thing that it's on. And you can just pop them in there and probably get a lot more. As a matter of fact, I know you'll get a lot more. You probably get at least another row of 6 in there. So you could probably have a set of 18 or something if you're using half pans. Full pans is what I would probably like to do eventually in there. I'd probably get a double set and then I'd pop out the little cakes and jam them, shove them right into a wide pan, a full pan, because I like the full pans. But either way, it doesn't matter. There's a good little travel set. If you're going on vacation, you can take it with you. You can basically do whatever you want with it. Because the colors are a little different in that basic set, they're not going to be a split primary. You may look at, well, do I want to replace 1 or 2 depending on, I want the cool red or I want a warm red or something like that. And you might want to swap that out, or you say, yeah, I want my yellow a little bit warmer. I do. Or swap out like a yellow ochre or something like that. Whatever you want to do. It's just convenient that you can use the magnets and just pop them out and pop new ones in. That's all. But in these 3 sets, you do get quite a wide variety of different types. Just like these people popping up on the screen here, they're a different variety of people that all mesh together and work well together, just like these paints do. So thumb up the video if you're going to check it out, see how they are, and just take a look. I'm telling you, it's very affordable. It's a wonderful thing. If you're looking for a little travel set, and I talk about the little travel sets all the time, there's a couple of brands that I've said, look, if you're looking for a little travel set for your sketchbook, this is a decent one that you can look at because they're inexpensive. You take them to the beach, they get sand in them, you don't care. You just replace it. They're only a couple of dollars. And I mean it, they're only a few dollars. They're not very expensive at all. So it's easy to do, or they get lost, or your bag falls in the water and the paints get ruined. It's okay. It's something that you can spare and then get another one. Whereas you don't want to take your very expensive paints with you and then something happens to them, you lose them, they get destroyed. Now you're out a lot of money. That's a lot of money to replace those. These, not so much. All right, here, take a look at this now. I did quite a bit of messing up in this one. I'm not gonna show you all of it, but I'll give you a taste of it. I'm not set up for my own show. I have to start pulling supplies. I'm already recording. I've got everything ready to go. I didn't have the brush out, the pan's not out, the paper's not out to wipe it. It's all right, don't worry about it. That yellow ochre should be, oh, you can't see it, it's not on the screen. Okay, so let me slide this back over here. Okay, that yellow ochre, and they look very similar because it's black paint. I mean, that's not what I meant to say. Cut that. What is that word? Why do I never remember that word? I can never remember what that color is. The word is teal. Where did I get lilac from? Is there a lilac somewhere else? I don't think so. There's not another lilac. I thought that one was lilac. Oh, don't worry about it. Did I write that wrong? Is it really? It's metallic. Oh, it's light purple. It is light purple. Oh, right then. Oh, there's a lilac. It's right there. There's the lilac. I knew there was. You saw it on the screen. I was looking everywhere else. I didn't see it there. So, yep, there it is. Okay, there is. I was not that crazy. I'm a little bit, but not that crazy. It's so exciting to go to bed, Mom. Let's go to bed. She's running. If you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. All right, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one.